scientists there. Over time, he developed an international reputation and built up a flourishing research group with talented students who have pursued their own careers in India and abroad. The research output of this group has centered on modeling the dynamo process that generates cyclic activity in the sun and other stars. In such models, we can distinguish between two key components of the magnetic field. One is the toroidal field, which winds azimuthally around the rotation axis in or against the direction of the sun's rotation. The other is the poloidal field, which, in its simplest form, is that of a magnetic dipole aligned with the rotation axis and producing a field like that of an oscillatory bar magnet. It is easy to see how variations in the rotational velocity, such as are actually observed, can generate toroidal fields from poloidal fields, but the generation of a reversed poloidal field from the toroidal field is far more subtle. These processes, first described by Parker, are what Choudhuri calls the central dogma of the solar cycle. He and his colleagues have described the creation of isolated loops of magnetic flux deep inside the sun, their interaction with rotation as they rise towards the surface, and their emergence to form sunspots. In their picture, these surface fields are progressively distorted to create a reversed poloidal field that is then transported towards the poles and downwards into deeper layers where a reversed toroidal field can be generated. Although this process remains controversial, Choudhuri achieved a triumph by accurately predicting that the current solar cycle would be much weaker than its immediate predecessors. His account of the fierce arguments that followed at scientific meetings is scrupulously fair, but it does reveal the tensions that arose when others mistakenly insisted that the coming cycle would be much stronger than its predecessor. Overall, Arnab Rai Choudhuri has succeeded in producing an interesting and instructive book. He writes in an engaging style, and his own personal tale will carry listeners into and through the scientific details, so that they emerge with a basic understanding of the problem of explaining the sun's magnetic activity. I recommend it gladly and without any hesitation. Nigel Weiss, FRS, University of Cambridge, March 2014. Preface. Astrophysics is a branch of science which excites popular imagination, and there has been a glorious tradition of working scientists themselves sometimes taking the lead in the popularization efforts. Pioneers like George Gamow and Fred Hoyle wrote virtually on all aspects of astrophysics as the subject was in their days. Of late, however, we see a tendency which I find disturbing. While popular science books keep being written on cosmology at an ever-increasing rate, many other important areas of astrophysics have been grossly neglected by popular science writers in the past few years. There is no doubt that cosmology is one of the most thriving areas of astrophysics at the present time, but it simply does not make sense why serious efforts are not being made to present many other important areas of astrophysics in interesting ways to the general public. It is not that our sun does not get any media attention at all. Every now and then, when we have solar disturbances affecting the Earth, such events do get covered in the media. However, one usually finds a typical pattern in the coverage of these events in newspapers and magazines. Within the last few years, technological advances have enabled us to take spectacular images of solar events, both from the ground and from space. Usually, newspaper or magazine coverage of a solar event would have spectacular photographs with only some very superficial comments about the science behind these solar disturbances. The unwritten assumption would be that the underlying science is a kind of dry, boring science which is best left to the experts, unlike the science behind cosmology or particle physics that can excite the general public. It is this assumption which I challenge in this book. The 11-year sunspot cycle is at the heart of all unusual solar events. I attempt to present the science behind this cycle as a part of the great intellectual tradition of physics. To the best of my knowledge, nobody has made such an attempt before me in a non-technical book. My firm belief that a fairly complete account of this science can be conveyed to non-experts